Let us continue in Al-Mu'taqad As-Saghir by Imam Ibn Khafeef, the direct student of Imam Al-Ash'ari. We're closing in on the end of the text. We are going to start from this statement of his. The author says, وَيَعْتَقِدُ أَنَّ مَنْ شَهِدَ بِالشَّهَادَتَيْنِ وَصَلَّى إِلَى الْقِبْلَةِ وآتى الزكاة وصام شهر رمضان وحج البيت لم نشهد له بالجنة ولا بالنار. And he holds the conviction. Who's he? That one in the beginning of the text, that Muslim who he is sincere, he's mukhlis, and he is a muhsin, a perfectionist in his worship. And he is a mujtahid, he is diligent. And he is alim or muta'allim, he is knowledgeable. And what else is he? Keeps slipping me.
Intellect.
He is intelligent, aqil. This one, what does he believe? He holds the conviction that whoever testifies to the two declarations of faith, man shahida bi shahadatain, wa salla ila al-qibla, and he prays facing the qibla, wa ata zakah, and he pays the zakat. Pays the zakat or gives the zakat. Wa sama shahra Ramadan, and he fasts the month of Ramadan. Wa hajj al-bayt, and he performs hajj to the house. He embarks on a mission to the holy house. This one, he did all the five, what people call pillars of Islam, the five most important matters of Islam. He said the shahada, he prayed, he paid the zakat, he fasted Ramadan, he made the hajj. What about him? Lam nashhad lahu bil jannati wala bin nar. We do not testify for him that he shall enter paradise or hellfire. We do not testify for him that he shall enter paradise or hellfire. Yani, we don't believe about one of the believers in particular. That this one, brother Fulan, and this one, sister Fulana, he will for sure and she will for sure enter the garden. وَلَا نَشْهَدُ عَلَيْهِمْ بِالْكُفْرِ. Nor do we testify against them about disbelief. Okay, before that. Nor will we say about someone that he shall enter hell. Even the kafir, while he's still alive, we're not going to say about him, this one will certainly go to hell. Not unless there is a religious evidence to confirm that person's case. Like there's religious evidence to confirm the case about Iblis, that he shall be in hell forever. So we can say with full confidence, he shall be in hell. And like Abu Lahab, we're going to say with full confidence, he shall be in hell. And as for Abu Bakr and Umar and Uthman and Ali, there is religious evidence by which we will say they shall be in the garden. And others who there are others who have the glad tidings of going to paradise, and there are others who have the tidings of going to hell also. That's a figurative tidings. There's religious evidence for that, and anyone lacking such religious evidence, then we are unable to confirm his situation. But we do believe that anyone who dies as a believer shall certainly enter the garden. Even if he's punished first. Even if he's punished first. That's why the Prophet ﷺ said, whoever dies as a believer, he shall enter paradise. Yawman min ad-dahr. One day. Even if he gets punished first and he has to spend time in hell, he will eventually come out of there. And also, anyone who is a saint, he shall indeed enter paradise. This is the meaning of what Imam al-Tahawi said. Al-Tahawi said, نَرْجُو لِلْمُحْسِنِينَ مِنَ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ أَنْ يَعْفُوَ عَنْهُمْ. We hope for the good doers amongst the believers that Allah will pardon them. وَيُدْخِلَهُمُ الْجَنَّةِ, and that He shall admit them into the garden. We hope that for them. بِرَحْمَتِهِ, by His mercy. وَلَا نَأْمَنُ عَلَيْهِمْ, and we do not guarantee their safety. That they shall be in paradise for sure. We don't know who's a hypocrite and he's really a kafir in our midst pretending to be a Muslim. And we don't know who Allah willed for him to flip on his heels and to become a kafir before he dies. Subhanallah. Some of the people we knew, they became apostates and we were surprised. And maybe some of them we weren't surprised. Subhanallah wa bihamdi. There was somebody who never prays and he doesn't fast and he doesn't learn. I won't be surprised if he commits apostasy. The author said, وَلَا نَشْهَدُ عَلَيْهِمْ بِالْكُفْرِ إِلَّا عَلَى مَعْنًى مِنْ مَعَانِي الْكُفْرِ وَوَجْهٍ مِنْ وُجُوهِهِ. Nor do we testify against him about disbelief. Or we can put here kufr. Kufr in particular, because the author here, his statement is not limited to the kufr that's blasphemy. Subhanallah. Remember that there's two types of kufr. I'm not going to translate both of them as blasphemy. Only the kind that will take you out of Islam, I'll translate that as blasphemy. So there's a kufr which is blasphemy, yani naqilun anil millah, a kufr that transports one out of the religion. And there's a kufr that is not blasphemy, kufrun duna kufr, a kufr that's less than blasphemy. That's the kufr, that's the major sin. The kufr that's less than blasphemy is the major sin that is atrocious like blasphemy. Like fighting a Muslim unjustly and other major sins. It is possible to explain the author's statement here, his wording, his choosing the word kufr here, as less than blasphemy. Why? Why should we go there? Why not just call this blasphemy here in the author's statement? Usually that's what kufr means. Nor do we testify against him about kufr except over a meaning. That means, so this part's a little hard to translate if we interpret his statement in the way I'm trying to explain to you. إلا على معنى من معاني الكفر ووجه من وجوهه. Okay. Nor do we testify against him about kufr, except over a meaning that means disbelief or wajh, an aspect, a way, min wujuhihi, among its aspects, an aspect among its aspects, yani, like the major sin that's less than blasphemy. Yani, There are some major sins that are called kufr because of their atrocity, because of their atrociousness. So then, if someone someone fought a Muslim, and then another person said, he did an act of kufr, fighting the Muslim, and he means a kufr that's less than blasphemy, then he will have said, like the Prophet said, alayhi salatu wassalam. So one of the aspects of kufr is a major sin, yani, an atrocious major sin. That is likened to kufr. It's likened to blasphemy. It's likened to blasphemy. It's not blasphemy. It's likened to blasphemy by calling it kufr. And it's not really blasphemy. So we're not going to put this on a Muslim, label a Muslim with these labels without some verification, is what the author is saying. مثل قول الله تعالى ولله على الناس حج البيت من استطاع إليه سبيلا ومن كفر فإن الله غني عن العالمين. And for the sake of Allah, incumbent upon the people is pilgrimage to the house, the Kaaba, upon anyone able to make a way there. Okay. وَمَنْ كَفَرَ, and whoever, so instead of disbelieves here, let's say commits kufr. In the books of tafsir, Quranic interpretation, some scholars explain the kufr here as less than blasphemy, and some of them explain it as blasphemy here in this spot. وَمَنْ كَفَرَ فَإِنَّ اللَّهَ غَنِيٌّ عَنِ الْعَالَمِينَ. And whoever commits kufr, then indeed Allah is independent of all creation. How would it be meaning blasphemy? Like whoever denies the obligation of Hajj. Whoever commits kufr by denying the obligation of Hajj, then his kufr is a real blasphemy, and Allah does not need that one. And how could it mean less than blasphemy according to some of the scholars? By neglecting the Hajj, while not, without denying its obligation, but neglecting it. According to them, this is a severely high major sin that is likened to blasphemy. Here's the statement of Imam An-Nasafi in his tafsir. وَمَنْ كَفَرْ, whoever commits kufr, أي جحد فرضية الحج, meaning whoever denies the obligation of Hajj, then that's blasphemy. And that's the saying of some of the scholars, I'm summarizing. And then An-Nasafi says, وَيَجُوزُ أَنْ يَكُونَ مِنَ الْكُفْرَانِ, it is possible that the kufr here is the ungratefulness. أي ومن لم يشكر ما أنعمت عليه من صحة الجسم وسعة الرزق ولم يحج, meaning whoever does not appreciate what I have endowed upon him of bodily health and sufficient sustenance, and then he does not perform Hajj. So that's not blasphemy. Not appreciating your bodily health and your sufficient sustenance, and therefore neglecting to perform Hajj, that's not blasphemy. But some of these scholars explain this to be the kufr in the ayah, this kufr that's less than blasphemy. So the author says we refrain from labeling someone with kufr without justification. So that's another challenging passage in this text. Then he says, وَمَنْ لَمْ يَحُجَّ فَلَيْسَ بِكَافِرٍ. And anyone who does not perform Hajj is not a disbeliever. Yeah. And likewise, anyone who does not perform the prayer is not a disbeliever. That's what's correct. Though some scholars said leaving out the prayer is blasphemy, literally, real blasphemy. This saying is not the correct saying because it's against some of the evidence. Like the hadith in which the Prophet ﷺ said, whoever does not perform his prayers, then if Allah willed, Allah will punish him. And if Allah willed, Allah will forgive him. So if it is valid that he would be forgiven for not praying, then means he's not a kafir. That's an authentic hadith narrated by Abu Dawood. So therefore the hadith بين العبد والكفر ترك الصلاة أو كما قال, between the slave and blasphemy is abandoning prayer. This means abandoning prayer draws one close to blasphemy, puts him on the verge of it, but does not mean that he is indeed a true kafir. وَيُصَلِّي خَلْفَ كُلِّ بَرٍّ وَفَاجِرٍ. And he prays behind any good doer or vice doer. خَلْفَ كُلِّ بَرٍّ. He prays behind anyone who's a good Muslim. وَفَاجِرٍ. And he prays behind the vice doer, though that's better to avoid. The major sinner, praying behind the major sinner is better to avoid. If it is verified for you that someone is indeed a fasiq, then it's better for you not to pray with him, except under some cases. What is known to be the ruling in the madhab of Imam Ahmad is that praying behind a major sinner is not valid. Not valid. Except for Jumu'ah and Eid. And I just said right before that, better not to pray behind a major sinner, except in some cases. I wasn't talking about these, what's in Ahmed school. Except in some cases that the scholars mention, like praying behind the imam who is a major sinner, I mean the ruler. Praying behind the ruler who is a major sinner. Of course, he can recite Al-Fatiha. He knows how to pray validly, but he's a major sinner. And if you don't pray behind him, there will be fitna amongst the Muslims. So, like the Muslims have a tyrant ruler, and he wants to lead the prayer. And if you don't follow him, it's going to be problems. Then pray behind him with no dislikedness. There's evidence for this. They didn't just deduce that, yani, or imagine that. They saw that from the actions of the Sahaba when they were under the dominion of some of the tyrants. وَيُطِيعُ الْوَالِيَ وَلَوْ كَانَ عَبْدًا حَبَشِيًّا. And he obeys the ruler, even if he is an Abyssinian slave. He obeys the ruler. How? To what extent? Whenever the ruler, the caliph, or his appointee has guidance in his directives, not commanding something frivolous or personal on his own part, such as to tell you, don't eat that meat. No, not this one. Rather, when the caliph or his replacement has or gives commands for the welfare, then you must obey him. So if there were a caliph, and then he said, "Oh, believers, in this age of ours of technology, wear your seatbelts." Then you're gonna have to wear your seatbelts because he told you to, and then it would be obligatory to obey him, or something like this. Obedience to the caliph is obligatory. The one who the allegiance was paid to him, the bay'ah was fulfilled for him. He is not disobeyed, and if we have to obey him, then what would then be the judgment of uprising against him? You cannot uprise against him. Insurrection, coup, and the likes of that against the Muslim ruler is haram, even if he's unjust, as long as he's not a kafir. And the author said here, even if he's an Abyssinian slave, he said that because of that coming in a hadith. Uh, Yani, in that description is the emphasis of obeying the ruler, even if he were an Abyssinian slave. ويعتقد أن أخبار الآحاد توجب العمل ولا توجب العلم. And he holds the conviction that the reports of individuals, أخبار الآحاد, necessitates action and do not necessitate knowledge. Uh, Meaning, the reports, the scholars have divided them into categories. A report might come from a lone individual, or it might come from two individuals, or it might come from three or more individuals without being a mass narration, though. Three or more without reaching the point of being a mass narration. So, a report coming from one individual, that's not a mass narration. A report coming from two is not a mass narration. A report coming from three or more, well, three is not a mass narration, but when you say more, yani, that could eventually become a mass narration. But a report of three or more, that does not become a mass narration. All of that, those three categories I just told you, the report of one, the report of two, the report of three, three or more without becoming a mass narration. Those three fall under one category called akhbarul ahad, reports of individuals. This is very important here. What is the judgment of the report of individuals? Tujibul amal, it necessitates action. وَلَا تُوجِبُ الْعِلْمِ, it does not necessitate knowledge. What does it mean, necessitates action? It means when a report has enough clues, then you act on it, even with the possibility of falsehood in it. So, an example I usually give is like someone's mom, for example, came home and said, "I've been robbed." So, what he might think, now, maybe one of you would say, "I wouldn't believe her." Why not? That's going to be because you have the clues that make you not believe her. But probably most of the people would say, "Okay, let's call the cops or something. Let's act. Let's do something. Let's get into action here," based on her report, based on the report of an individual. So, will you act by the report of an individual? The report of the report of an individual necessitates action. And here, when we say necessitates action, we are, of course, saying it's an authentic report, not any report. So, an authentic report from an individual necessitates action, but does not mean that you believe that yani, does not mean that you have definitive knowledge of the truthfulness of the report, because an individual could be lying. Even one that you know to tell the truth could be lying. It's possible mentally. Or maybe that one was misinformed himself. Someone else told him something, and then he passed that information off. This happens a lot. And it was not authentic in the first place. So that means it's not true. But when the one who is reporting to you has enough clues for you on a personal level, you are the uh, investigator here. Someone's telling you something. So when you hear what this one is saying, you say to yourself, "This is an individual here telling me." Okay, I know from my religion that the report of an individual does not dictate knowledge. لا توجب العلم. Which means I do acknowledge the possibility of falsehood in this report. Praise be to Allah who gave us this great religion that encourages our intelligence and good sense. I do acknowledge the room of falsehood, the room for mistake here or falsehood by one way or another in this report of this individual. However, on the other hand, the clues that I have make me believe this individual. Like, that's my mom, I know her, for example. Or this is my husband or my wife. And likewise, or is this my friend? Likewise, the other way. You say, this one, he's telling me something. He is a mere individual. What he's saying could be true, but the clues that I have concerning him make me not act. Make me not act. I'm not going to act here because I have not been convinced of the truthfulness of this report that doesn't dictate knowledge in the first place. Doesn't dictate knowledge in the first place, and on top of that, I don't have enough clues to even motivate me to act. Now, the author is talking about the hadiths of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But I am just saying it to you in a way that's broader than the hadiths to hopefully make you understand a point. What I am telling you now is true about the hadiths also. A hadith comes from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And let's say the scholars say this hadith is sahih, this hadith is authentic. Does that mean the Prophet said those exact words just like that? No. Does that mean that none of the narrators in the chain forgot something, or his tongue slipped, possibly, or maybe even lied, or the like? No, it doesn't mean that. When they say this report is authentic, this hadith of the Prophet, this prophetic hadith is authentic, and it's only a report of individuals, then they are saying it is strong enough for us to act upon, but does not mean we must believe that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said these very words, nor does it mean that nothing happened in the transmission process as it went from narrator to narrator. So if that's the case, when you hear this, then if you are someone who, you still watch the corporate media news, corporate news, legacy media news, like CBS, NBC, ABC, CNN. You still watch that stuff? You must take it with a grain of salt. When you learn these things I'm telling you now, then you listen to how they talk, you're going to see how tricky they are. If you don't learn these things, then you might be one of those people who've been watching that stuff for decades, and they turned your brain into mush. Okay. So, the intelligent, knowledgeable Muslim who is a perfectionist in his worship, and he is sincere and diligent, he holds the conviction that the reports of individuals necessitates action. That's if it's authentic. And do not necessitate knowledge. وأخبار التواتر توجب العلم والعمل. And successive mass narrations necessitate both knowledge and action. Successive mass narration, tawatur. Something was witnessed by a large group of people who their sheer numbers make it normally impossible that they have conspired to a lie. Their sheer numbers make it normally impossible that they have conspired to a lie. They witnessed something. This part's important too. A large body of people, a generation, some people at a level, they witnessed some event, not just they thought of something. They witnessed it. Not they claimed something and agreed about it. They witnessed it. Like the existence of Muhammad itself. Muhammad was witnessed by thousands of people. Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. So you might meet a silly person who says, how do you even know Muhammad existed? There are some people out there like that. So you tell him, we know Muhammad existed by successive mass narration, mutawatir report. And he's going to say, huh? Then inshallah you try to teach him. A large group of people witness some event. Then they in turn report what they witnessed to another large group, a group as large as they are. How large does it have to be? so large that it is normally impossible that they have conspired to a lie. For example, World War II. Is it possible that the people of the earth have conspired to a lie here? And then they fabricated uh, a tale of a great war and called it World War II. This is not possible. So this type of report, successive mass narration, tujibul ilm, it necessitates knowledge, wal amal, and action, because it's definitely authentic. Yeah, and uh, keep this information in mind also for the gossipers. Don't listen to gossipers. Those ones, the gossipers, those are the ones that say, I heard. They have no verification. Yani, they don't verify. They like to talk. They're talkative people. It only takes for them to hear something for them to turn around and say it, assuming they said exactly what they heard the way they heard it, and they didn't change anything. It merely takes for them to hear something without checking anything to turn around and say it to someone else. Those are the gossipers and the sloppy people who do not check the information that they say. Don't say everything you heard. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Kafa bil mar'i kadhiban an yuhadditha bi kulli ma sami'." It's enough to confirm a lie for a person. And it's enough to make a person a liar for him to say everything that he heard. Wallahu a'lam, we'll stop there. Then the time went so fast, mashallah. I just now started getting warm. I was cold the whole lesson. Now I just started getting warm, but the time's up. Do you have any question I can answer for you? Subhanak. Yes.
Sheikh, I was late. I apologize. Could you just tell me how you presented this lesson?
How did I present it?
Yes, the subject matter.
Well, we just continued reading in this text of Ibn Khafeef here. So I just did like I usually do, reading through the text, reading the Arabic, and then the translation on the side and elaborating for you. He talked about here that if someone says the shahadas and they even do all the most important matters of Islam, we're not going to guarantee, we don't guarantee that he's going to die as a Muslim and that he will be in paradise. We don't know how's he going to die. Allah might make him die as a kafir might make him become a kafir right before he dies. Then he dies as a kafir. And likewise, if someone were a kafir, we're not going to say for sure he's going to be in hell because we don't know. Could be right before he dies, he becomes a Muslim and dies as a Muslim. And all these other points that the author mentioned here, just I was reading through them like we usually do. No.
Barakallahu fikum. Thank you much.
Ameen wa fikum. Subhanallah, a person might spend, the Prophet said, alayhi salatu wasalam, what means? Person could spend all of his life doing the acts of the people of paradise until the people would think he is amongst the people of paradise. And then his heart will flip. He will leave Islam before he dies. He will die as a kafir and he will be in hell forever. And likewise, another one, he could be spending all his life doing the acts of the people of hell until the people are sure he will be among the people of hell. And then his heart will change and he will become Muslim before he dies, and he dies as a Muslim and will be in paradise. Ameen wa fikum. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك.